Good day, legends. Buckle up, because today's episode is going to be an absolute belter. We are diving deep into what I'm calling the Trump trap, Labor's latest political game to paint Peter Dutton as Australia's version of Donald Trump. It's a risky strategy, but is it going to work? Or is it just another desperate attempt to pull the wool over voters' eyes? Before we get stuck in, do me a solid, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're sick of the political circus, check out our Albo Says Relax t-shirt, just $23 for the next 48 hours. Links in the description. Alright, let's crack on. So, Labor's playbook is clear. If they can convince enough Australians that Peter Dutton is some kind of Trumpian figure, they reckon they'll scare off the middle ground and lock in an election win. And look, it's not the worst strategy. They've seen how Trump's brand of politics divides people. But here's the thing. Dutton isn't Trump. He's made that crystal clear in interviews, press conferences, and speeches. Yet, that won't stop Labor from running with the narrative. It's a classic bait-and-switch move, where they don't actually argue policies, they just plant the idea that a vote for Dutton is a vote for chaos. And let's be real, the mainstream media will eat this up, running headline after headline about the so-called dangers of a Dutton government. But here's where it gets interesting. This whole thing could backfire spectacularly. Because while the left-leaning media and the Twitter crowd might foam at the mouth at anything even remotely connected to Trump, a solid chunk of Australians see through the nonsense. They are not interested in American-style politics being imported here. They want real solutions on cost of living, housing, national security, not a bunch of fear-mongering about a bloke who lives 15,000 kilometers away. Now, let's talk about where this really kicks off. The polling numbers. At the moment, we are seeing One Nation polling at around 9%. And here's where it gets messy. Back in 2019, 75% of One Nation preferences ended up going to the Liberals. If that holds, it gives the coalition a real shot. But if Labor manages to wedge Dutton into this so-called Trump trap, and enough Conservative voters feel like he's not Trumpy enough, we could see votes leaking to One Nation and the United Australia Party. That could throw a spanner in the works, especially in tight electorates. But Labor isn't just relying on the Trump angle. They are throwing in Medicare scares, PBS funding threats, and the classic line about how Conservatives are out to gut social services. It's all smoke and mirrors. The reality? The White House hasn't even said a word about these supposed policy shifts that Labor is claiming will devastate Aussie families. But that doesn't matter, because all they need is a couple of scary headlines to do the heavy lifting. Let's call this what it is, a well-crafted political stitch-up. Labor is using Dutton's tough stance on immigration and crime as a launching pad for the Trump comparison. They want to make it seem like he's some sort of radical right-winger when, in reality, his positions are hardly extreme. But this is where it gets tricky for Dutton. If he leans too hard into proving he's not like Trump, he risks alienating Conservative voters who actually like the former US president's policies. If he ignores it, Labor will keep hammering it until it sticks. It's a tightrope walk, and one wrong step could cost the coalition big time. Now, let's talk about the big picture. If you look at Canada, Trudeau was heading for an absolute flogging in the polls, but he managed to claw his way back by using a similar playbook, fearmongering about the right, making himself look like the defender of progressive values, and spinning every possible issue into a reason why his opponents were dangerous. Sound familiar? The question is, will it work here? Labor's banking on the idea that Australians still have the same reaction to Trump as they did in 2016. But the political landscape has shifted. People aren't as easily scared by name-calling and media hysteria. They care about their mortgages, their grocery bills, their power prices. If Labor keeps playing this Trump card without delivering real solutions, it could blow up in their faces. And let's not forget, Albanese himself isn't exactly coasting through this term. His government has copped heat over cost-of-living failures, weak energy policies, and an immigration system that's as leaky as a rusty tinny. If people start feeling like he's spending more time attacking Dutton than actually governing, that's when the tide could turn. But, and here's the kicker, Dutton isn't out of the woods either. He needs to figure out how to counter this without falling into the trap Labor has set. So far, he's done all right. Not taking the bait too often, staying focused on policy, and letting Labor look like the ones playing dirty. But as we get closer to Election Day, the attacks will ramp up. The media will go into overdrive, and the pressure will be on. So, what happens next? If this Trump trap strategy gains traction, we'll see Labor milk it for all it's worth. Expect more headlines, more so-called warnings about the dangers of a Dutton-led government, and more attempts to paint the election as some kind of moral battle between progress and regression. But if the coalition plays their cards right, they could flip this narrative on its head, turning the focus back onto Labour's failures and making Albanese look like the desperate one. Either way, this is shaping up to be one of the most cutthroat elections we've seen in years. So, what do you reckon? Is this a smart play from Labour, or is it just political theatre? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, if you want to show your frustration with all this nonsense, grab an Albo Says Relax t-shirt. Only $23 for the next 48 hours. Links in the description. Alright, that's a wrap. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you legends in the next one.